Welcome to the Good Man Paradigm. I'm your host, Imogen Hobbs. I'm also the men's coach and proud founder of Change Channel Coaching. And I am super excited tonight because I have not only live with you guys, but live with me, Jess Cameron. So thank you so much for joining me tonight.
You're welcome. It's a mission getting here.
We got here and we're all sorted. But Jess is a mindset and relationship coach. And the first time I ever saw Jess was presenting at the National Sales Conference in 2024. And I just went, she's talking my language. I need to have mad conversations with that woman. And I'm pretty sure I got up, well, I'm not pretty sure I did. I got up and I ran over and I gave you a hug when you were finished because it just felt so, like so much like what I needed to hear. But it was also really inspiring to see a woman get up there and like really call it for what it is and hand it to people. So I love that.
Hopefully elegantly handing it to people. And do you know what's interesting, getting off a stage of 1,000 people and then just having someone run over to you as you're walking down the stairs? I'm like, I don't have security yet at this stage in my career, but I was like, I either have really pissed her off or really uplifted her. And so glad it was the latter.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was. So our topic tonight is about masculinity and masculinity through a woman's eyes and through our perspective. You work with men and with women and couples as well. And so I think, and we talked a little bit off screen just to figure out where we were going with this tonight. But I think one of the things that I really want to jump off the deep end with is, like, what was your first sort of like conscious understanding or realization of what masculinity was and whether that was, for men or for women, like what was it that really sort of brought that to your like,
To my understanding? Well, I think unconsciously, when we're children, we're getting our framework of the world from our family unit, and we're also getting our framework of masculinity usually from our father and our framework of femininity usually from our mother. Right? So the female or the male caretakers, should we say, in whoever has raised you, we're getting an unconscious idea of what that looks like. My first conscious understanding, though, of what masculinity was, what it meant to me, was probably maybe 1 to 2 years into my marriage. So I was previously married and we were having a lot of, as most couples do, financial stresses. And I'd never been in a position where my finances was shared with somebody. I had never in my life gone into debt. So then marrying somebody that had gone into debt for many business opportunities, and that was all new grounds for me. And that caused a lot of strain on our relationship because at the time he was building his business, which I fully, like, very capable man. So fully backed him in being able to build his business. But it did mean that I was providing or predominantly providing. That strain, shall we put it, I remember one day going to the beach and sitting down with like a notepad and pen, because one of the things that he had said to me was, I just feel like you're nitpicking me all of the time. Like, I can do one thing and you come home and you'll find the 3 things I didn't do. Like the thing I did staring you in the face, and he's probably there like, yay, waiting for like the praise. And I'm like, this, why is these not done? And he was like, I really, sometimes I don't even know if you like me, with how much you're nitpicking me. And I was like, oh, I obviously do like you. I love you. And so I went down and sat on the beach and I was like, what is my actual framework of what a husband should be? Not who is Dennis, not who was the person that I was married to, but what do I believe a husband should be? Because clearly I didn't have these issues when we were dating. Yet when we became married, it flipped. And so I was like, why did I not really care about these things? Same position, but I didn't care about them when we were boyfriend, girlfriend. So something is now flipped where now he's my husband and I'm irritated at him a lot of the time. And so I sat down. It was almost like I wrote down my instruction manual my unconscious, which I tried to make conscious, my instruction manual of what a husband should be, number one on there was provider. And I was like, well, I understand where the nitpicking is coming from, because I was in a position where at that stage I was providing. And my dad was the provider, and a very good provider. And I've always felt very stable and secure financially growing up with him as a father. So now I'm in a position where I'm like, well, how are you going to support children if we have children? And I'm thinking all of this of my husband that didn't fit the exact replica of my dad at this stage in our marriage. And I went home after writing that list and I was like, oh, here's my unconscious instruction manual for a husband that I didn't realize I had. And I shared that with him and I'm like, I actually feel unsafe. And he was like, well, that's probably the most painful thing to hear as a man and as your husband. But it actually makes sense to me why you keep picking at me all of the time. Like why you're trying to control everything to feel safe. And he made a few really big, difficult decisions at that stage in our life and flipped it around and became the provider once more. And that really brought me a lot of security within him. So there was another stage in our marriage where he quit his job and wanted to start a business again. And I just started my coaching business. So I was like, oh, are we going to fall back into, financial strain? But it didn't bother me. I said, go for it, quit, because I had trusted him now that if push came to shove, he would every single time step up. He would do it every time, step up and take those reins. So now I trusted him to essentially not provide as much for the time being. If that makes sense. He built that trust within me.
Yeah. And then it didn't work out.
And then we got divorced.
We made it. If you see me looking over here, I'm just checking if there's comments. For anyone that's watching live, you can ask us questions while we're talking. I can see them and I will be checking periodically, and I would love to hear your comments and questions as we go through this. But I really appreciate you sharing that, because it is really, that projection of, like, what was our father and what did that show us? And then therefore, what should we anticipate or expect that to be? And how many of us are unconsciously
expecting
all of the time. And expectations, I think that once you understand that, like, expectations just always lead to disappointment. But I think that realization as well, of like, whose are these expectations? Are they mine, or did I get them given to me by my parents and their parents and their parents? And how long has that been funneling down? So in terms of that, like in terms of your experience in that, because being able to change that dynamic within a relationship is, for most people, very, very difficult. To be able to shift those roles and things like that. So what did that do for you in terms of masculinity or femininity and whatever, dark, light, fast, slow, gentle, strong?
Well, I mean, obviously make light of the fact that we are divorced now. However, he is still in very much a, how would you say? He shaped my life and he shaped who I am, and I will always love him. Like, he's still a very close friend in my life. It wasn't a bad breakup or failed anything. That's a story for another day. But that taught me, that relationship, everything that I know consciously about feminine and masculine. And because before, it's all unconscious programming. It's all unconscious conditioning. And one of the things that taught me was how to, as a woman, hold myself in stress. Because me, probably like most people, when I'm stressed or strained, go into control, which is not my feminine nature, which is not feminine nature. Feminine nature is surrender and allowance and receiving, not control. And so one of the things that I found was, I remember having this moment where I was trying to learn about what's the feminine approach.
Yeah.
So we need, practically, this is my practical brain, we need more money. Like, we need more income as a couple to bring into the household. But if I just go out and get another job, work in my business and then also have a side job to make more money, that is going to make my husband at the time feel emasculated, feel like I'm doing such a bad job. She's got to work herself to the bones, like doing a bad job at providing. She's got to work herself to the bones to go in and bring more money. And even though that would help, it also then has detrimental effects on the relationship itself. And so I was like, what can I do that's not just the masculine approach? Like, I was very consciously like, the masculine approach would be, we need more money, go out and make more money, go and do masculine energy, solve the problem, do,
take action.
And I was like, okay, what would be the feminine approach? And I have zero role model. I don't know about you, but zero role models of what that would look like to, not zero role models of feminine, but in this specific context. Like, what does it look like to just not go out and do and make more money?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, what's the feminine qualities? Well, one, my emotionality, my sensitivity and my emotional intelligence. Being able to actually hold myself, though, in those emotions. So rather than just stressing out and then projecting that onto him, being able to regulate myself so that when he came and spoke to me about his stresses, I didn't just panic, which previously I would just panic. What do you mean that's where our finances are? Where are we going to get the money? And I would start spiraling, which then, as a practical man, he learns, don't tell Jess. Don't share those things, because now not only am I stressed, I now have to deal with her stress.
Yeah.
And now I can't just focus. I'm trying to manage emotions. Let me just hold that all inside, not tell her, and just get the job done, which is what most men do. And then a woman's like, you didn't tell me. You didn't tell us where we were at. Do you know what I mean? Are we going to say something then?
Oh, I was just going to ask, you pretty much answered, but I was going to ask, like, there's so many men, like, I exclusively coach men. And so I hear this conversation a lot, but so many men that get that, like, I've had my hand bitten by trying to be honest or by trying to be vulnerable or trying to share with you with a woman. And then that, like, gets used against them. And then that trust is gone and they, regress or pull back so far. And, like, it does create that, well, there's no sense in telling you, but now I'm withdrawing from you or shutting down from you because every time I come to you, you fucking blow up. And, like, it just goes around in the washing machine. And so that was going to be my question, like, what sort of impact do you think that has on men? Because I know that a lot of them are experiencing that.
Yep. Huge, massive. And I had to learn that personally. If I want a man to open up to me emotionally, because I want to connect with him, if every time he does that, I freak out, he is going to learn it is not in any way
safe,
desirable or safe to share that with her. So she might be telling me, oh, I want you to let me in. I want you to share your emotions with me. But I'm learning as a man, no, you don't want that, because it actually just stresses you out and freaks you out and makes everything worse. And so that was the one thing I'm like, if my strength as a feminine is my emotionality, then I better get really good at holding emotions and regulating emotions, And I also thought, okay, another feminine strength is intuition. Is wisdom and intuition. And so what happened is I was trying to learn these things. And he came and he spoke to me about a particular business decision he made. And I felt, well, what if you did this? Like, what if I think he wanted to, at the time, let go of a client. And we talked about it. I wasn't freaking out. I was emotionally regulated. And I thought, what if we hold on to them because it's not costing us anything? And, just had this practical conversation. He was like, yeah, cool. That makes sense. That client then not in a very long space of time afterwards, came around and became like a $20,000 client, like just boom, right off the bat. And then that continued to go. But at the time when they were smaller fish, it was, it didn't seem necessary to keep them.
Yep.
So my wisdom in that brought in money. I didn't have to go out and do it. He still did the thing.
You didn't have to work any harder either.
Exactly. I just was able to regulate myself in that conversation to give insights, because, when you're men, like anybody, when you're in the thick of it and when you're emotional, it's very hard to see clearly. So being able to have someone you trust bounce ideas off of and say, well, what about this? What about that? And then my other feminine strength is collaboration, my network of people. And so I thought, why don't you talk to this person that I know? I could set it up an introduction. What if we talk to this person? He goes, talks to that person, makes money. He is doing the thing. So I'm not emasculating him by going out and doing it myself. I am being able to hold his emotions so that he can feel the relief and the release of being able to actually talk about his stresses and be supported in that without me, because I'm supporting myself in that.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to offer wisdom and intuition and insights that guide him to go and do the thing and give him context that allows him to do the thing. So I'm like, I actually increased our family income without emasculating him and without having to go and do it myself, because I'm like, well, he's not doing it, so I have to do it. Or he's not doing it good enough, so I've got to do it as well.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I teach with the guys is creativity and desire come from the same place, right? Like they're one and the same, and how we use those. But creativity is the intuition. The idea is the intuition, and when we look at masculine, feminine balance within a person, male or female, it's like the intuition aspect, the idea is the feminine piece, and the masculine is what do I need to do now to create this idea? And when you're talking about it in that way, it's the perfect balance between male and female in those moments of you holding the creativity, the idea, the inspiration, that part, so that he can go and action it, and that just it just speaks so well to the balance that we can look for in ourselves, but also that we can facilitate between two people. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about I don't know how to say it, but that's one of the things that the guys get from working with me, is that I believe in them so deeply. And one of the things that I've seen from that, and that's just my normal state, but one of the things that I've seen come from that is most men are looking for someone to support them in that way. It's not necessarily about women have to do all of these jobs and men have to do all of these jobs, but how do you collaborate as a couple, as a partnership, as a pair, to run a household, to have a relationship, to have your own individual jobs, and for that to be collaborative rather than competitive. Which is what I see so much as the fail of well, she should apologize, or he should go out and make more money, or he should be doing this and better. And it's men are the problem, women are the problem, that whole blame backwards and forwards. And so to hear that in actuality, in practice, and the way that can work. And I feel a lot of men would be you would ever find a woman like that? It's well, that takes work, right? A man has to do so much work to be able to sustain that and feel comfortable or confident enough to be able to say, hey, this is something that I'm trying to navigate right now, and be able to, ask for listen, because that was kings and queens and, the pharaohs and emperors and things like that. They generally had female consorts because women are intuitive, because women hold that, and I studied numerology well before I was a coach, and that's one of the things that talks about is that women have an innate natural intuition because we can create life, and we can foster a life coming into the world. Men have the ability to bring the seed, but go out and create everything around that.
It's complementary. And I think that's the union of it. We have complementary strengths. And well, I don't know, maybe a bit controversial, but I think that is where feminism and equality, these movements, not these concepts. So equality, obviously, absolutely equal in importance, not equal as in sameness. We do not have the same roles. We do not have the same gifts. We do not have the same physical makeup. We are not biologically wired the same. And these kind of concepts that have turned into movements like equality and feminism have a lot of, I believe, distortion within them that have caused a lot of issues where it's like, well, now we all want to be the same, rather than recognizing, no, we have complementary strengths, which means we're different, and we bring different things to the table. And so if I'm wanting a man to go out and strengthen his muscle of providing, if I want him to become more resourceful and more savvy and more wealthy and more have greater business acumen, well, then what am I doing to strengthen my emotional intelligence, my emotional regulation, my ability to be able to hold him in all of the stress that he will be under in order to go and hunt better, let's say, right? And so, and I think sometimes that's the part where we just want something from the opposite, from the partner or from the opposite sex sometimes. And it's like, I want you to do this for me. We don't often look at ourselves of, well, what's your compatible strength and what are you doing to hone that? And this is true for everybody. What are you doing to hone your compatible strength to bring to the table? Because we're not meant to be the same.
No. And I've actually got like a quiz that I've built for people that are, like wanting a relationship, and it's like to identify, like what are the things that you want in a partner? Like what is that? Like if you could design your ideal partner, and not like a mile long, but what are the key traits that you would be looking for in a person? And the second section of each of those is, what do you need to work on for yourself to prepare to be able to bring that person in? Because, like there's only so much that we can, and we talked about this earlier as well, but like there's only so much you can do in isolation. There's only so much our clients can do with us before they actually get into a relationship. And then they have to figure out, how that works in actuality when it's, like physically present, and when it's daily life and it's daily conversations and all of those things. But, I think that a lot of people aren't looking at, what do I need to do to be able to hold this next level? And then one of the other things I see or hear a lot of is men saying, I just want a healed woman. I just want someone who's sorted this shit out. You obviously.
I hear all of this, and yet obviously I coach men and women as well, and so I uniquely hear both sides of the spectrum and the frustrations that both have, because as you and I were talking about before, no one's got it right.
No.
Like it's not even as much of like, oh, we've got to go back to the traditional way thousands of years ago of the hunter-gatherers, because we've actually also evolved as a species. So we're now understanding that we're both masculine and feminine. So I do not want a man that is all masculine all of the time, because then he's not listening to his intuition, which is his feminine part. He's not listening to his inner wisdom. He's not being sensitive. Like the parts of us that we also want and require from each other, we are wanting both masculine and feminine. Because a man is usually not wanting a useless damsel in distress that also won't action anything either. So what we're looking for, rather than just like a healed person, on a more practical sense, is somebody that is integrating and working on both their masculine and their feminine, right? That and in order to do that, we have to value both the masculine and feminism and feminine, right? Because otherwise, if a man has been taught to never ever value emotions, to never value sensitivity because that's weakness, then he's also shutting down his feminine, which is shutting down his creativity. And for a woman, if she's shutting down those things and just like, got to be ambitious, got to go, got to drive and make money. And we're all taught that masculine is the better of the energies since we start school. It's always about masculine, you do, you achieve, you get reward.
Yeah.
So, women and men are all victims of this imbalance, essentially. The imbalance of no one understands what feminine actually looks like in its true power.
Yeah.
And what I know I look for in a man is somebody that has feminine as well as masculine.
Yeah.
What I love about myself is that I have feminine and masculine. We're not meant to be all of one all of the time.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about working on yourself, right, is that you start to learn how to navigate or transition between those things and go like, great, like I need to fucking go for this, like, and I know what I need to engage to do that. But then you can come out of that and be like, cool, I'm just going to take a break and, like, and nurture myself in some way, or go out and be slow, go and, for me, I go and sit and have lunch out there in the sunshine and just sit on the grass. And, it's being able to enact or engage, like those different aspects and be able to transition, not get stuck. I think.
Exactly. It's a weaving. It's a dance. And we have to be able to do it internally to be able to see it externally in the relationship. Yeah. Right. And that's what I was using that example before of him bringing the masculine and me bringing the feminine. That can't happen unless that's happening internally.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise it triggers and it challenges, right?
Yeah.
It shows people what they don't want to see, and then they go, and that's the reaction, that's the confirmation of belief. Like, I don't have that, and you've got it, so therefore, actually had that in one of my relationships where he was incredibly artistic, and I'm incredibly practical. I grew up in the outback. My mum is incredibly capable and very practical, and I've just had a family reunion back in New Zealand, and my whole family, it's just, you're just like, fuck, no wonder I can get shit done. Like, you guys are wild. But being able to see that, and then me being able to like drill the bike racks into the wall or whatever, and him just being like, I should be able to do that. And he'd never been exposed, grew up in the city. I grew up in the middle of the fucking outback and on a farm in New Zealand. Like, he'd never been exposed to those things, and it emasculated him because I knew how to use power tools. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to, like measure on all of those things. And it did bring that conflict because internally he was like, you're more capable of being a man than I am.
Yeah, which only happens, I feel for him, because it only happens when if we're collapsed in one, right? So if internally I'm collapsed in the masculine, then somebody being in their masculine is going to trigger me. Or internally, if I'm collapsed in the feminine, someone being in their feminine is going to trigger me because I'm like, that's what I should be like, or that's what I should be looking like, or that's how people should be experiencing me. Rather than, and this is one of the things that I talk about with men cannot value the feminine in their woman if they can't value the feminine within them.
Yeah, so true.
And vice versa. That goes both ways. But I think the imbalance is that, like I said before, because all women and men are taught to value the masculine energy. From the time we start school all throughout the rest of our lives, every single one of us is taught to value masculinity. There is a significant imbalance between understanding and honoring the feminine. Yeah. And so we respect it in men and we respect it in ourselves. But the opposite is not, like, you can't truly love the feminine if you can't love the feminine within yourself as well. And so for him, because he was collapsed in his masculine, you were triggering him rather than being like, yeah, go get it, babe. Like, I want my power drill too. Can you help me do that? Like, there was shame for him only because he hadn't integrated his own masculine, because that was an area that he felt weak. So your strength in it was not complementing to him.
No.
Your strength in it was pouring salt on his shame wound.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely, like, I think for me personally, and I feel like it's going to be a similar thing for you, but maybe, but like I definitely was, as you put it, like collapsed in my feminine, because where I grew up, of the experiences that I had, of the life that I'd gone through, and the the period of time before I realized what even any of that was. It was like trauma. In my belief system, trauma puts women into their masculine immediately, and then to be able to get out of that, or to be able to come away from that, takes an inordinate amount of work. Work on yourself. And then I guess this is a conversation or a topic that I would love to chat to you about.
Well, I'm here.
But what does femininity look like? And if you have grown up a woman, a girl in your masculine, and the maybe the warrior archetypes are in your repertoire, they are definitely in mine, then like, what does femininity look like for an individual? And like, because I feel like society has a view of and the reason why the podcast is called the Good Man Paradigm is because society has a view of what good men should be, but I think also society has a disabling view of what feminine should be.
Yeah.
And what about all of the women that are trying to come out of this trauma cycle and enter into a world and going, what do I do? How do I do that? How do I be that? How do I become that in the world? And we've just got my cat Luna. You might be able to see a little periscope tail down here. She's just
sniffing our toes.
Sniffing the toes. Yeah.
The feminine, the feline
Exhibit
has
A.
entered the picture. Great question, because we can't value something that we don't understand. And I do think that what I've known within myself, and then what I've seen in my work, and even just friends and family, just in my outside world, is the feminine is just not understood. Yeah. And one thing that I have struggled with my whole life, I don't know where I first got these thoughts, but I was like, I'm not gentle enough.
Yeah.
I'm not like meek enough and soft enough, and
I want to hold your hand.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no, like straight away, because we have that framework of the feminine is soft and nurturing and flowy and loving, and I don't relate to that feminine.
No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, then I'm not feminine.
Yeah.
But that's not true, because feminine is not a personality. And it's the same with men. Men think, well, I play footy, well, I build shit, well, I, can fix cars, well, I make money, I can drill holes. This is all masculine. It's not. These are all just skills that we might be more naturally in tune with based on our biology, right? And so the feminine is actually receiving. Being receptive and receiving. The feminine is intuition, is creativity. The feminine is sensitivity. And have you ever, been around somebody that lacks sensitivity and they just did not read the room whatsoever? And
I grew up around someone like that. Yeah.
It's a gift. It's not a weakness. It's highly observant and being able to like navigate any situation and any terrain. And so you think in that sense of how powerful the feminine energy actually is. Yeah. Yet we wrap it up with this little soft, pretty bow of they've got to be real gentle. And I'm not a gentle woman, but that doesn't mean I lack femininity.
Or sensitivity or any,
And that took me a long time to learn, because I always just thought, I must be my tomboy, or like I might look like a girl, right? Yeah. But I was like, I grew up with brothers, and I just wasn't gentle and I wasn't soft, and I still am a bit more like fiery and direct and action and stern than I am soft. And so I think the misunderstandings and the distortions around what it actually looks like is why we have an aversion to it. Same with men. If you're like, oh, be in your feminine, and they're like soft and sensitive and exactly, they're just going to be like, why? Like that, there's no appeal there for me whatsoever. And same with women. There's no appeal to that if you're trying to make a career for yourself, a life for yourself. If you're ambitious in any way, it's like, well, the feminine doesn't seem desirable to me then. It's only because we've misunderstood what the feminine is. We've misunderstood what the masculine is. So we have an aversion to it based on all of this conditioning.
Yeah, and like it is that I see it so much, particularly with men, which is I'll just go to the gym and I'll, like harden the fuck up and get over it kind of thing. And I'm like, physical strength does not equal strength. Like you're only as strong as your weakest part, like, and the weakest part is the unconscious, the unseen, the things that trigger all those, like perhaps collapsed masculine, feminine aspects or attributions and those parts of you that, like you're trying to protect madly without consciously knowing about it. And, I think perhaps like speaking to what you were just talking about, it's like the depth and breadth of emotional awareness and emotional intelligence that a person has to be able to go from like, I understand my triggers and I understand, like my life's experience, my traumas and all of my family experience and all of those things. Plus I also understand what it takes to, perform at an elite level or to have a goal, to have a dream, to have something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And the thread of the intuition between those places would determine or, amount to a person's, transit between masculine and feminine. And I think that for men, that seems to be particularly difficult to step into because it's that like you had a gut sense, you had an internal knowing that was going to go wrong. Like there was, and you didn't listen. And your self-doubt is a far louder voice and that overrode that. And so, like how many times I think it's the same. It's like, how many times have men been told not to listen to the gut instinct? And how many times have women been told to not prioritize that? And then how confusing does that message be?
Yeah, this is why everyone's messed up. That's why everyone's confused.
And welcome to society.
We just made the problem far worse. But no, we haven't. It's that because it's confusing, people don't know what to do, right? And that's why I like having these conversations to make it make sense to people where, okay, so the masculine is direction. The masculine is boundaries. The masculine is focus. The masculine is action. Discernment. We want those things. Everybody wants those things. Right? And the feminine, like I've said, creativity, wisdom, inner knowing, unconditional love, receptivity, nourishment. We all want those things.
Life.
Exactly. So I'm like, I think the real work is, and this is true for me too, when we have an aversion, either consciously or subconsciously in our system to either or, the feminine or the masculine, that's our work to do. That is our work to do.
Amen.
Right? For me, it was the feminine. Masculine's easy for me. For me, it was the feminine. And through my life experience, I have, because it's still going to be a working on it, so much judgment towards the feminine. So much. Because to me, it was the feminine is chaotic and unstable and so emotional and not logical or practical. I was just like, oh my goodness. Why are we crying about this? Can we do something? Like get a bit more of a masculine approach. And because there's wounding for me from the feminine in my life, I probably went far more the masculine way. Never saw that as a problem because in this day and age,
you got shit done.
Masculine is exalted as the be all and end all. And so that has been a big journey for me on a practical sense. How can I love receiving and be just as good at receiving as I am at giving? Masculine is giving, receiving is feminine. So I'm really good at giving. But also that means I'm always in control.
Yeah.
Because the giver is in control. You know, you're in control of what you buy or what you know, how you wrap it, what you're giving them. Think about like giving a gift. Right? Every single step of the process, you are in control of giving that gift. The person receiving it has zero control. They just have to open it up and be like, wow, amazing. They didn't know what you're going to give them. They didn't know they were getting something. It's a completely different experience. So people that are only comfortable with giving are only comfortable with being in control.
Would you say that that's manipulation or can lead to? Because like even if you're talking about that, like, well, I mean, control leads often to manipulation, and I think we're always manipulating people in different ways all of the time. You know, like this conversation is manipulating people's belief or perspective about, you know, what they thought or what they think, or, you know, giving them a different idea. So I don't think that that's inherent.
Hey, you're all being manipulated.
Who's that plan? But so I don't think that it's just like, you know, everyone has narcissistic traits as well, you know, like things like that. We're all, you know, we can all go one of any of the directions, but back to that, it's like if you want to be in control all of the time, and particularly like in that like gifting example, it's like, is that also, or can that be construed as well in a way that is, you know, like I want to elicit this response, and therefore I will, you know, like do
only be the giver. You want, the way that I look at it is, if there's imbalance, not good. That's as much as I can simplify it. Like, imbalance is the part that's not good. So giving, great. Over giving, imbalance.
Yeah.
Receiving, great. Overtaking, imbalance.
Yeah.
But so I like that, for me, is the way. Anything that's disproportionate, anything that's out of balance is not good for you ultimately, and good for the other person. So if I have a friend that I am always the giver and I will refuse to ever receive anything from them, that's actually not going to be a super nourishing relationship. Like, how are they going to feel? The person that's always just the one receiving feel like they can never give anything to me. They're always going to feel inferior and inadequate. And I'm creating that with either my inability to receive or my discomfort to receive because of my conditioning, or because, like you said, I'm manipulating a situation in some way where I want to be seen as the giver. I want to be seen as the one that's got all of this resources to be able to provide. The imbalance is where to look. And so for me, I was like, well, I have an imbalance in receiving. I'm very good at giving, very uncomfortable with receiving. I need to clear up this imbalance. And receiving is feminine. It just always, the areas I struggled with seem to be feminine, right? Yeah. It's not a coincidence. And so I was like, I want to be somebody that when you give to me, my response is so nourishing and fulfilling for the giver that they just feel lit up. I've thought about it in this way. Imagine, like, when you give someone a compliment, well, we don't have to imagine it because we've probably already experienced it. You give someone a compliment, they're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No, stop it. Absolutely not. No, it's not true. And you just have to sit there for 10 minutes
and
listening to them shit all over your compliment.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, prefer just to not tell you anything. Like, yeah, fine, no. And now I have to, for 10 minutes, try to reassure you that my compliment was genuine or make you feel better. That is not an exchange that now feels good.
Yeah.
Whereas imagine if I was to give someone a compliment and they were like, that absolutely has made my day. Thank you so much for sharing that and saying that out loud, because that actually means so much to me for X, Y, and Z. How am I going to feel about giving the compliment?
Yeah.
And so there's that beautiful symbiotic relationship between giving and receiving. If I receive really well, I'm also giving in that exchange.
Yeah.
And then if I'm giving really well, I'm also receiving in that exchange. And that's how it's meant to be. It's always meant to be a constant give, receive, give, receive, give, receive, because we have beliefs around giving or receiving is bad. Like, no, I don't want to take it. We create imbalance. And so we stop this beautiful flow. So overgivers always feel taken advantage of. Yes, because you're attracting overtakers. In fact, you're actually creating overtakers unintentionally because you won't let them give.
Yeah. And
to
that, you know, like example of what, you know, your like magnetic attraction, you know, like you'll get what you're programmed for. You only know what you know, and you know what you've experienced. And if you don't learn something different, then it's always going to be the same. And so it is that, you know, like, and we see so many people do that and then go into resentment because, you know, like this person keeps taking from me, and it's like, nah.
And everybody takes advantage of me, and
they're an energetic vampire, and I'm like, that don't exist, bro.
You hooked them up.
You said yes. You said take it.
It is so true.
Yeah, and it is that, like, I guess, you know, like how. I want to ask you a question. I'm going to go into one thing, and I'll do that in my brain. How uncomfortable was it for you to learn how to receive? What? Not to.
Horrific.
Okay, great. I was like,
horrid.
Not to presume that it was uncomfortable, actually.
Horrid. It was. I share this example, and I've shared it before, but I was at a stage in my life where I was very resentful that I wasn't feeling supported. And, you know, people would give me advice. I'm like, it's shit advice. Get better advice. Like, I'm always giving good advice. Why can't people give good advice? Like, I was in that state, you know. I'd kind of clearly had spiraled myself into so burnt out, giving all of the time, needing support, but then not feeling like anybody was there to support me, and being like a real snotty bitch about it. And then I was walking around the lake of my house one day, and I had a friend join me for the walk, and I started talking about where I was at with my life, and it was a really nourishing conversation because she was giving me lots of advice. She was listening well, and I really valued her advice. And there was something that happened mid-conversation where it was like this click of discomfort within me, where I then started being, well, what about you? What's going on with you?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're prying for her problems.
Yeah.
Like, I was actually wanting her to share something difficult back with me so that I could then support her. And I went upstairs after that, and I thought, I caught it. I thought, Jess, you were finally getting this support that you said you're not getting, and you became uncomfortable with receiving that then you tried to turn this scenario into one where you left it, having been the one to give the support, having been the one to give the advice. And I really checked myself on that and realized, you're doing this to yourself. You are creating this on your own by like kind of pushing people's support away unconsciously because it says something about me. No, I'm the advice giver.
Yeah, I'm the strong one.
I'm the strong one.
I'm the fixer.
I'm the fixer. I'm not the one that needs help. And so when somebody's giving me help, I'm like, ugh. Yeah. What help do you need? What help do you need? And then I'm complaining that I'm burnt out, that everybody comes to me with their problems. I'm actually sucking their problems out of them to make me feel good about myself. Right? And so when I realized that, I was like, you have to tidy this up. You have to clean this up. And I had another then experience not long after where I was in a very difficult space, and I had a friend come over and hold my hand. And my immediate thought was, snap out of it, Jess, she needs you. And then I was like, okay, yep. And then I realized she had recognized I needed support and had come over to hold my hand, and I immediately wanted to vomit. I was like, ugh. Stop holding my hand. Like literally was like, lean into it. Like I caught how uncomfortable I became immediately when I realized she was trying to support me.
Yeah.
And I was like, where does this come from? Like all these realizations or reflections I was having. And I was like, lean into that, Jess. And I did. And I tried to relax my body and tried to have that support. And after that, she said to me, I wanted to talk to you about something for 7 years. I'm like, 7 years? I can't hold on to I can't even hold on to the end of the movie if I've predicted it already. Right. And so I was like, what? And she goes, I have felt so much guilt our entire friendship because I felt that when I went through a hard stage 7 years earlier, she goes, I felt like I gave nothing to you and you're just always giving me advice, always helping me, always supporting me. And then I gave you nothing. Mm. And this entire friendship, I have felt inferior, like inadequate, like I've not given enough. And I thought, oh my goodness, here I am thinking I'm doing a good thing by giving, but I'm actually creating disconnection in my relationship because she feels like she's got nothing to offer me. And I told her all of the things she actually had given me in that time and how much it meant to me. And it was a really beautiful healing moment. But she only opened up to telling me that
because you softened. Because
I softened and leaned into her giving to me.
Have you found that, like, have you found a ease, or Luna wants to be involved, an ease or a disconnection or difficulty being friends with women in your life?
Yeah. Oh, and growing up, I was always closer with the boys. So then, of course, I get called the flirt, or, you get all of those labels because I did have girlfriends, but I connected easier with men. And I mean, I was raised more with men. And I also valued masculine a lot more. So, yeah, there's I think for a lot of women, there's a lot of feminine wounding because there's competition. Men aren't always, they're not trying to compete with you. They're trying to sleep with you, but they're not trying to compete with you.
But and I think that the aspect of that is because I understand that so well. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I think I work with men, because it's like you can say it how it is, and they will generally tell you, and you don't have to kind of like figure out. Women are far more complex, or have, in my experience, and particularly in childhood, it was the like, you can be friends with us, now you can't, now you can. And I was like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna go over here and be friends with the guys, because like they're just like, we're gonna go shoot each other with slug guns. I'm like,
can you shoot the basketball? Okay, cool. You can play.
Are you good at sports? Are you fast? Are you strong? Yep, you're the captain of the team. Great. But whereas women, it always felt like this murky, and it's interesting, like again, like 15 plus years into personal development now, I'm like, oh, I can see all of that. But at the time, it's like, like women were a far greater, like I'd been, had lots of sexual abuse and trauma and things like that, but women were a greater adversary than men. And
that's sad. It's a sad experience that we have. You know, I again believe if the feminine was restored to its rightful place in our society, we would not be experiencing that, because because masculine is competition. Yeah. Right, and competition inherently is not bad, but how that plays out when it's out of balance.
Yeah, and collaboration can still be encouragement. Like collaboration can still be like, like, we do a similar thing, I fucking support you, like, get all the people over there, have the conversation, do the thing. Like, there's probably still a competitive element between that, but it's collaborative because it's like, well, I respect you, I respect what you're doing, like, and I'm assuming it's vice versa, but
yeah.
But it is that, like, where did that get lost in our society? And like, I think the feminist movement has so much to answer for, but it is putting that in. And I can't remember her last name, but her first name's Alison, and she's been working predominantly with masculine.
Alison Armstrong?
Yeah, I think
Older woman?
Yeah, since
brilliant.
91. And I was listening to her interview on Modern Wisdom a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that she said really landed for me, which is like, women are looking for men to be strong in the same way that we are strong. And men are looking for collaboration. They're looking for, that's not the word,
Complementary.
That's the word.
Yes.
It's the C word. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Looking for complementary, but
Mhm.
because for us, like men come into a relationship and then we're like, you should be able to fix that, but you're not fixing it the way that I want you to fix it or the way that I would do it. So therefore it's not good enough. And men are like, you can do all these things that I can't do. You know, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But women are going into that, you know, like competition with each other and with the other as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I feel like that's, you know, it's messy out there.
Yeah.
It's messy
It
here
is.
for us.
Because when someone doesn't feel safe, they go into control. And so I think part of the problem is that women perpetually feel unsafe.
Yeah.
We are, without doubt, the physically weaker species. And so it is wired essentially in us to feel less safe than the males on the planet. Right? And so if we're carrying that within us, then we can definitely, not checked, have a tendency to be more controlling. And on the flip side, men can get very confused with what leadership looks like, and they can go into control and domination. Right? And so there's a distortion to
both,
to everything. Yeah, there's a flip side to everything where it's you have to catch, because I think people are confused. I mean, like, well, do you want me to lead? But then that's controlling. Then that's telling you what to do. Then that's disempowering or, dominating or conquering. And I'll just let you do what you want. And then women are like, I want you to lead. And
but not in that way.
But, not
but don't do that.
Right.
And don't put it there. Yeah, it's definitely a confused state of being. And I think, you know, like for all of us, like, well, maybe this is a better question. Like how, from your perspective, from what you've learned and from where you sit and what you observe with other people as well, you know, like what is the fundamental starting point for us to shift the scales and start to bring some form of balance?
Good question. Great question. What's the starting point? I think I touched on it before. I believe the starting point is understanding the feminine and actually also understanding the masculine and being able to know what do they mean? What do they look like? So understanding is one, and then awareness around what do you have repulsion or aversion to within yourself? Is there an area that's collapsed for you or not as developed for you? And then with that awareness, bringing some work into how do I heal that? What do I do? For me, I'm like, okay, I don't receive very well. Well, okay, how do I heal that? Just practice receiving better.
Yeah.
You know, like it's as simple as that. I didn't have to go on some whole big massive journey to heal that. I just had to choose a different pattern in the moment.
Do you feel that being online and having a presence online has helped you with that?
Help me with what? In what
like
way?
Receiving, in terms of like, you know, like I get my fair share of hate for sure about, you know, like what right do you have to do doing what you're doing, but I also get a lot of support and I get a lot of people being very complimentary about what that is, and I assume that you would get the same from your podcast and from your posts and from your work and things like that. And so do you think that that's helped you with like being able to receive?
I've never considered that before, if it has or not. Yes and no, because for me, I could receive all of those get all of those compliments, but not truly receive them. And that probably happened for a long time until I learned more how to receive. Because I believe for me, receiving is like truly receiving, not taking. Receiving is an open heart. And so there have been plenty of times where I'll get a compliment, oh, that's so nice, or oh, wow, thank you, they didn't hate it, versus feeling, like actually feeling the compliment and feeling like the gift that compliment is, or them sharing something. I have gotten way more sensitive with that now. Like I can get teary-eyed, I can feel really emotional with those compliments, whereas before it was almost like validation that I wasn't being shit. You know, like validation that they didn't
I
hate
didn't do
me.
a bad job.
Right? Validation that some people liked it, not everybody did, as opposed to really receiving another person and what they are giving in that moment. So, yeah, I think I've noticed the difference because I'm online as well in how the receiving is happening versus what it used to be before. Yeah. And so for me, it was actually more working on it in my relationships, like my personal relationships, because that's where I felt more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just wondered when you were talking about it before, like whether that had had an impact or had any effect, because it was one thing that I heard from Teal Swan, you know, like she was saying, like your haters are your best friend because they'll pull out the parts of yourself, the shadow that you don't want to look at. They'll pull those parts out of you and pull it into the light. And so, you know, I always look
that's definitely true.
And when people say things, it's like, do I have a reaction to that?
Yeah.
And if I have a reaction, well, that's my responsibility to work on until I don't have that reaction anymore. And then I kind of know if I get that comment again and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Great. But I feel like the same can be true on the other side of that, if that's the exposure or, you know, experience to aid that journey potentially.
Yeah.
I have a question, but I just want to quickly jump in and say, if you're loving this conversation and you're really enjoying this, please pop a comment on, or if you're watching this after we've been live, then please chuck some comments and let us know what you enjoyed, what you want to know more of. But please like and share this as well, or hit the subscribe button would be rad. Thank you very much. In terms of the balance or how we can start going about that, like, yes, a person can look at, you know, like where the gaps are or where the triggers are and where the shadows are and what they want to understand or balance more for themselves. For women that are stuck, shall we say, in their masculine, do you think that, so one, I feel like this is going to be a loaded question.
Yeah, I'm gearing up.
So if a woman is single, plus also had experienced trauma in her life, and maybe she's done some work on it and maybe she hasn't, and she's in her masculine, do you think that she can get out of that and stay single, like while she's single, like completely
get out of the masculine and stay single? This is a loaded question. I was about to go one way and then I thought, oh, actually,
you're welcome.
Is she only expecting to be in her feminine?
Well, it would be more around, you know, like, because I see a lot of women, and I've been one, and I think we've gathered that you have that as well, which is the, you know, like you've gone through the majority of life in those masculine attributes.
More predominantly masculine, yeah.
And so what I'm curious around is, like, what do women need to do to be able to come out of that? And is it really possible to come out of that and be single?
Yeah, so yes and no. We can learn how to, I mean, this is where you're going to get into realms of, can you receive something monetarily through manifesting? So there are ways to create what we want and need in the world, in our feminine energy. It doesn't all have to be masculine.
Yeah.
And that was what I was saying early on. I had to learn, how can I actually physically bring more money into the home in a feminine way? So I didn't go out and do it, but I was able to assist in creating it. So yes, you can still be a single woman and be in your feminine if you were to learn to trust the power of the feminine. If you'll learn to trust that it's not only masculine that is going to create something. And I think that is, like, that's the seat of our power, is knowing, how can I be safe, achieve things, have everything that I want in a feminine way. rather than it's only possible if I'm in my masculine. So yes, I do. I mean, it's going to take a lot of work, but yes. And a lot of, by work, I mean a lot of trust, because that requires so much deep reconditioning. Like, you think as soon as you're stressed about money, you go, I've got to go make it. Rather than, like, so the way that I view it is, let's say I'm stressed about money. I used to say, how is the money going to come? That's a masculine way. Problem, how do I solve it?
Yeah. What's the fix?
The feminine way is, oh, I wonder how that money's coming.
Yeah. How am I going to receive that?
How am I going to receive that? And it's not, I want to be real careful, because our conditioning always says that's being lazy. That's just doing nothing, sitting on your hands and being like, everything come to me. I just want it all given to me. I don't want to work. It's not about that. It's about having a deep sense of trust that everything that you need always comes to you. Every single thing the flower doesn't think, how is the sun going to shine on me today?
Yeah.
Like, when no one's questioning in nature, nothing is questioning where it's getting its support and sustenance from. We, who are still a part of nature, we are the ones that think we're going to be destitute, we're going to be homeless, the money's not going to come, we're not going to be able to eat. Like, we're the ones that have those fears because we're disconnected from the give and receive cycle. We're creating imbalances within that, is my belief.
Yeah.
And so when we're truly plugged in, the fear isn't there. So it doesn't mean that you don't do anything. I can still go out and do something to make money come in. But the energy is, I need money. Oh, I wonder how it's coming.
Yeah, and that's like, are you relaxed about it or are you stressed about it?
Yeah.
Right? And do you think that that's getting closer to, I want to be careful with the use of this word because I don't mean it but like closer to divinity.
Yeah.
Like your own divine state.
Well, I think in the way that we use divinity then, I think being in the true feminine, being in the true masculine is the highest point. Because for me, that is, you are now completely aligned and in harmony with the universe.
Yeah.
Because the universe is feminine, masculine. It's those energies are interweaving all of the time.
Yeah, it's the actual reality of infinity, right?
Yeah.
Like a constant give and take, move through flow. What do you think is obviously we're doing this, well, my target market is men, and so that's...
Well, we've probably talked a lot about feminine for them.
But I think that's a really big, I think it's a really important conversation to be having, because, and I said this to you earlier, but I don't think enough people are talking about, like what it looks like for women to be in their masculine and what that means for the ability to have relationships, and, who needs to do the work, who needs to show up in those things. And that question around, like, can women drop if men can't hold?
In relationship, so controversial. I don't believe so, no. And maybe we can remove the women and men and put masculine and feminine, in the sense that the masculine is the initiator. This is where people get really up in arms and angry, because with equality, it's like, no, men and women should be doing the exact same thing. We both have the exact same responsibility. And in a sense, yes. But when it comes to masculine and feminine energy, I, as a feminine, if I'm in my feminine, cannot receive if you are not giving.
Yeah.
Right?
It's empty.
Exactly. I cannot surrender if you are not leading. And so the masculine energy is the initiatory energy. It initiates, it implements. So without the initiation, nothing can happen from that point. And so I think, men could be very upset by that. We're like, well, I don't want to go first in the apology, or I don't want to go first in the making the plans, or whatever it might be that they're being asked to sort of take the lead in. Or I don't want to change anything about myself, but I want her to be more feminine.
Yeah.
And I do believe, and this is, for anyone listening, this is no judgment, because we can acknowledge None of us have this right. We're going to keep saying that. None of us have this right.
We've not got it sorted.
We've not got it sorted. But for a man to say, I wish she was more feminine, is the least masculine thing.
Yeah.
That, a man saying that in that moment that he says it, he is not in his masculinity. Because someone truly in masculinity would know, if I want her to be more feminine, I am the initiator to that.
I have to step up to that.
Exactly. So if I want her to surrender, if I want her to soften, I have to lead or hold, or I have to soften myself, whatever it might be. I have to contain. I need to do something in order for her to drop. And so when someone says, I just want this from her, there's a misunderstanding that the masculine goes first. Because that feels unfair. Feels like, no, I shouldn't have to go first. I feel like for a lot of men and women, it sounds like women get to do absolutely nothing. They just get to sit there and suck a lollipop and twirl their hair, and they can be bitches, they can be rude, they can be controlling, and they don't have to do everything. I've got to provide, I've got to protect, I've also now got to lead and contain their emotions. I have to do absolutely everything. What actually is she doing? And that's a very fair response, and I've had that response. I'm like, what are women doing if they're in their feminine, right? They're just receiving all of the time. They just want the grapes and fan me and all of that. That's where we're confused.
Protect me.
Yeah. Exactly. That is where I think we get confused, and then everyone's just like, stuff it. We just continue doing it's too hard, it's too confusing. Rather than the way that I look at it, bees, the honeybees, right? The bees are doing the work, and what they receive is the honey. So it's not just that you're doing all of the work and you get nothing in return. What I think men and women, again, don't understand is that when you lead first, or when you initiate first, or when you do that work, you get every single thing that you want.
Yeah.
You will activate the openness of the feminine.
Yeah, bloom.
To bloom, you will get the most beautiful flower you've ever seen. You will get the sweetest honey you've ever received. You will have men being like, geez, I wish I had a woman like yours. Like, she glows, she beams, look how she treats you, she appreciates you, she supports you, she loves you. How do I get that woman? Every time I see a woman like that, I know that she is loved properly by a man in the masculine. If I see like a wilted flower rose of a woman, I know that there's probably some dysfunction in that relationship where the masculine and feminine's not being understood. And so I think that's the important part, that for a man, it's not that you have to do everything. You receive everything that you want. The more you step into that masculine, the more you understand, you hold an enormous amount of power to be able, but the power that they've thought they've held is distorted.
Yeah.
They're like, I hold this power to provide, my strength. I hold this power to provide financially, my resources, rather than knowing I literally hold the power to make my woman or my children or the women around me blossom into the most beautiful, sweetest energy that I could receive. I hold that power. I also hold the power to crush it. And so the way that I look at a man being, I wish that she was more feminine. It's like you've put a flower on the bench and it's gone wilted and rotted and ugly and smells, and you're like, I don't want that flower anymore.
Yeah.
Rather than realizing you were the one that was meant to nurture it, nourish it, water it.
You're supposed to put water
You're
in
supposed to do
glass,
something, yeah. Right. And then you'd get this beautiful flower rather than going, I don't like this anymore. I want a new one. And it's not for women to be irresponsible. It's not for us to be like, I'm not blooming unless you
love me.
It's not about that, but there does have to be an understanding that you can't without it. You know, you can add so many parts to it. You can try to bloom within yourself, but if you're in relationship,
Yeah.
if you are in a relationship, no, I don't believe so.
And I think one of the other aspects of, and the other side of that is that, and this might, I don't know if this will land well or not, but I don't know if there is a better source of passionate power for a man than to have a woman stand behind him and say, I love you and I believe in you and I know that you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the magnification of what he can achieve because she believes in him.
That's the power of the feminine, the magnification. So the truest power of the feminine is you will multiply everything. So you bring me home a beast, I'm going to make coats, I'm going to make blankets, I'm going to make a stew. I will amplify and multiply everything that you give me. And that is the perfect way to describe, if you go first as the man, you're not just giving and then get nothing back. You get back tenfold. You build the house, she will make it a home.
You give the seed, she will give life.
Exactly. That it's literally built into absolutely every single thing. Yeah. And you know, I know this is a graphic example, but for the men that are listening, this seems to be the one that makes sense. It's the same sexually.
Yeah.
If you put in no effort, you might ejaculate quickly, but you think about the experiences where she's been fully open and she has surrendered and she's received you, and it's been like this
divine experience,
ecstasy, and you have put in effort, but you got a 10 times better experience for yourself.
Yeah.
Not just you did it for her, but for yourself. It was way better for you. You didn't miss out because you had to give a bit more. And that's use that example for absolutely everything else. Like when you give to a woman, truly, she will give back to you. You will receive 10 times more.
But and in that same sort of example as well, we're at like if a woman's not safe, she's not going to surrender to you sexually.
Oh.
You know, like because that's the most vulnerable place that either of you can be in. And so if she's not safe in communication with you out here in the kitchen, in the lounge room, you know, like when you get home from work or any of those sorts of things, she's sure as shit not going to give it to you there, because like that is like men look for security or, you know, and that's the provider element as well. That's the financial aspect. And that's, I think that there's been some controversial conversation around like, should the man earn more money than the woman? And I kind of agree that he should, you know, like in some ways, and not that it's like, that's a prerequisite in any way, but it is that, you know, like you're the leader. You have the capacity to go out and create those things in the world. And that can be the beauty and symbiosis of that response. But if she's not safe, if a woman's not safe, then she will be in her masculine. And if she's in that,
because her masculine is her protector. Yeah. Our masculine energy is our own provider and protector.
And keeps us safe. And so, you know, I think that I see it a lot around like the, you know, women aren't soft, or women aren't this, or women aren't that. And it's like, well, what are you doing to be able to have those conversations, to be able to create that safety? And, you know, I actually spoke to a couple of clients today and some other people today around this, which is that when you do the work, it's not an immediate response, you know. It's not like, well, I'm working on it, so it should be fixed. Yeah. It's like and I always go back to the gym analogy, which is like if you start going to the gym, it's like a month before you see results. And then it's like a whole nother month or 2 months before people around you go like, whoa, you look really good. Yeah. And I think it's the same in terms of the internal work, except we don't have a physical representation of that. When you're working on the mental and the emotional aspects and the spiritual aspect, there isn't a physicality to that. And so I think that particularly men, like I think women see it slightly differently because because women are naturally more emotional and chaotic in that sense. But I think because men, we're working on more tapping into that, it's like there's not a physical reward. There's not a physical response. There's not something that I can see. So how do I know that it's working or not working? But there's also that fear around having difficult conversations.
And I think something that I wanted to also bring up as you were speaking then too is it's not all on men. Like, men do need to take the lead. Well, I say do need to take the lead. The masculine is the initiating energy. But there are unsafe women, a lot of them. And so I have seen and I have worked with men that think she's just like this because I'm not doing enough, I'm not masculine enough, or I'm not present enough. And there's all of this like rhetoric all online that it's like a man's got to do this or she won't be, she'll be nasty instead of sweet. Yes, and there are also unsafe women.
Definitely.
Which is why the masculine is also discerning to know she's not receiving, she's taking. She's abusing. It's not all I've just got to keep working at this and then I might get the woman that I want. Sometimes there does have to, just wanted to put a caveat in there, sometimes that woman is not safe for you to keep giving to.
Yeah, and I think in a certain amount of self-development and self-work and self-understanding will get you to a point where you go like, hang on a minute, because I've had plenty of guys come in and say, like, I did the therapy, I did this, I went and, I did all of the things, and she just still said it wasn't enough, or I was the problem, or any of those things. And, so I think that I wholeheartedly agree with that from what I've seen as well, and what the guys coming through my programs have worked on. But the work will show you.
Yes. And that's where I was going with that. So I wanted to your point, say her response or your children's response to you is your physical evidence of the internal work that you're doing. But I wanted to add that caveat that sometimes it won't change because
sometimes you'll have to leave.
Sometimes you're going to have to leave, right? There are imperfect women and there are imperfect men, and I would say to any woman you leave an abusive man. I'd say to any man you leave an abusive woman.
Yeah.
So
and the same with a business relationship or a friendship or any of those things. And I think that that's one of the biggest aspects is and the fear is that people start developing themselves and then the friends go, you've changed, or you've what's wrong with you, or why are you like this now? And so I think it's the focus is definitely for this conversation has been relationships, but I think that occurs so deeply in our outside world. And are people geared with the emotional fortitude to be able to walk away from family members, to be able to walk away from friends, to be able to leave jobs? That's a huge, because that puts the provider aspect into jeopardy, really. Is that well, what if I do take the risk and I leave the just the bookshelf having a time and I leave the toxic work environment? And I've had so many clients that just hold so tightly, and I'm like, you're miserable and every time you go on holiday you get better. And then you go back to work and then you're miserable again. But you stick to that because the fear is, well, it pays well. And money is the predominant.
And that's my value, is what I provide financially, is the resource that I bring. And that's why there's a misunderstanding of, well, it's just providing financially is the only masculine trait. No. Or it's the most important trait. No. A man who is grounded, because that's masculine, within himself, self-assured, doing what brings him passion and purpose, that's masculinity. It's not just making money or having, the ability to make money. It's and a woman is going to feel that and highlight that to you in relationship if you're not fulfilled.
Yeah.
And they can feel that you're not fulfilled. You're just making money, but you're miserable and you're snappy and you're angry and cool. Thanks for the money. That does take care of our security, but the relationship is still dying. And this is where I think so many men get so hurt, because they get cheated on or the wife leaves, and because they're like, I was doing the things.
Yeah.
I was
expected things.
I was bringing home the money. And I'm like, how many conversations did you have with your wife where you're like upset because you say, well, I'm providing. What more do you want from me? I'm going to work. And she's clearly expressing that she needs and wants more, but it's not, I want you to give me more. Well, it shouldn't be. You know, we're talking about a healthy feminine. These examples are healthy feminine.
Yeah.
It's not I want more. It's I want you to be who you are meant to be, because that is the power of the feminine, in being able to see your potential, to see the man that you actually are beneath all of the self-doubts and the worries and the stresses. And we crave that.
Yeah.
You know, we want you to bring that out in you, to be the best version of yourself, and just making the money is not enough.
It doesn't cut the mustard.
Right. But then men are like, that's what I have been taught is enough. And it's a very painful experience for men, because I do not, just like a man will never, ever, ever be able to truly comprehend what it's like to be pregnant, to give birth, to breastfeed. Like, they will never psychologically and physically understand that. I do also believe that women will never truly psychologically understand the burden of providing. Like, closest would be a single mother, 100%. But even then, deep down, part of that is finding a man that will then take that role eventually, take that role off you and support. We don't actually have, I'm not going to say all of us, some do, but that mentality of the buck stops with me. You know, like if there's an intruder at the house, I'm not going outside. I'm sending my partner. You know, like at the end of the day, the buck stops with the man. And that is an experience, I believe, that women will never be able to truly understand. That's their role, just like they can never truly comprehend our role. And being able to understand that it's crippling when they're told that's not enough, their provision is not enough. That is like a stab right in the heart, and because they've been told that's what they're good for.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like so much of that is that, and I actually asked this question to my, sort of like my courage method is 4 phases, and I asked the guys in phase 4 the last time I ran that, you know, like we were doing some alternate identity stuff. And they both were able to pull out what that identity was. One was the playboy and, you know, things like that. And it's just, you know, I asked them, like, underneath all of those things, what is it that you're actually looking for? And all of them said connection and communication. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things for men to come to the table for. And I think that, like, that's definitely not a stab, but that's a societal and experiential development that's happened from all of the messed up stuff in our society that says that this is what men should be and what men shouldn't be, and you know, this is what women should be, and this is the competition in that between us, which is that everyone's competing all of the time now. But I think that also that, you know, like that experience of like, harden up, dry your eyes, princess, go out and get on with it. You know, like I work with guys that work in the middle of the outback, and they've actively said in sessions, you know, like the measure of a man out here is who works the hardest and the longest. And they will compete to work harder and longer. And, you know, I had one guy say to me, you know, I realized that I needed help with the fencing, but I couldn't ask the neighbor to help me because then I would feel like I didn't know what I was doing and that would put me at risk. And so I would rather it take twice as long and fuck around and figure it out than feel embarrassed by asking or put myself at risk of not knowing. And I'm like,
such a common experience.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it is. And I think in this conversation, I'm also acutely aware that we are two women having this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And so I do want to speak to what you were saying before when Alison Armstrong talks about women are trying to make men the perfect woman.
Yeah.
Essentially, the perfect version of what they think the perfect woman will be. We do also have to honor that men care about strength, and men care, like, it's not that we're suggesting that they shouldn't compete or that they shouldn't want to work hard. That is absolutely not the conversation. I want to make that very clear, because we're not trying to take that drive and ambition and power and that's sexy. That's what we want. That's what we crave.
Yeah.
We do not want to take that away from it. Go and do that. What the conversation is about is that there are areas within a man, this is probably the good man paradigm that you were talking about, that you're unhappy because you're not tapping into that, like your creativity or your intuition.
Or your passion.
Yeah. It's not getting rid of this, it's adding. It's adding to it.
Richard Cameron, 5212, has said, I thought I should mention that I was here.
Oh.
We love that you're here. Thank you.
So yeah, I want men to know it is not about them changing and not becoming masculine at all.
It's so the opposite. It's so the opposite, because like that's the fucking fundamental cornerstone of what I do. I'm like, I would love to see passionate, driven, like men that are like, this is like, I have to bring this thing out of me. I have to create this in the world. I have to make it happen, because
that's the balance.
That's inspiring. Like it's magnetic. It's like it's consuming, and we like and I say we as in like women, but other people, kids. Like we want to experience men that feel that connected to themselves. They know where they're going. They have that discernment. They can say, that's not a good use of my time. I'm going over here. Like, I have to create this thing. Like, get out of my way if you're not on that mission. And to be on the mission to discover what is your truth in the world.
Yeah.
Like, what are you here to actually do? And what happens when you feel that drive and you feel that connection, you feel that passion, and you're, like I would say to everyone, like Change Channel and men's coaching, for me, is the physical representation of my intuitive passion in the world. I just, I'm not gonna lie.
You can see, you can hear it, and you can see it. You're just lit up.
Yeah, but it's like, so I want to help men get to that point, where they are doing something that they thoroughly believe in the world, because we all get a better experience from that place, but they get a better experience of being them in the world. And so it's definitely like, I love that you pulled that out, and I think it's like it's so important that it isn't about weakening men or making them less than. It's like,
or making them more feminine,
or softer. It's about being able to navigate.
It's about being true.
Yeah.
And you can't be true to yourself if you don't know yourself, and you don't know yourself if you've been conditioned into, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, this is my obligation and duty. And that is the interweaving of feminine and masculine. The masculine is work hard. We love a man that works hard. Work hard, but work hard at the thing you intuitively know is your purpose. That's the combination. Are you just working hard hammering a nail, or are you working hard at the thing that you're like, this lights me up?
This is my creativity in the world.
That's the joining point, right?
And I think that you see an entire flip in a person, in a man, in a woman, when they're on that path as well. I think that we often see, like, if a man is lit up and he is in pursuit of that, his health changes. Like he
physically looks different.
His presentation in the world, and I don't mean like necessarily just the physical presentation, but his stature, like how he shows up. as a person, how he holds conversations, how he enters a room. You know, like I say that to the guys all the time. Like, you've met a guy who has walked into a room and you've been like, oh, well, and he's probably triggered the fuck out of you, and you've been like, oh, get out of here, you know, real quick, because it triggers that part of ourselves that we haven't developed yet.
Yeah.
You know, that's what being around those people does, as you said earlier. But it is just about seeing like more men in pursuit of themselves. And so many think, you know, like, I can't be selfish and I can't prioritize myself and I can't do these things because that would be selfish. But my perspective on that, and I would love to hear yours, is that selfishness is one of the, maybe we need to rename it, but self-prioritization is the fundamental aspect of being yourself in the world. And from that point, like, if you can't, as you were saying before, in similar terms, like, if you can't love yourself, you sure as shit can't love anyone else. And you definitely can't receive love, because if you don't know what love feels like internally, how do you know when it's coming to you? And what does that, and how do you know what represents love if you haven't internally understood what is my measure of love? What do I need? And so I would love to hear your perspective on, like, I don't know if selfishness is the right word, but
authenticity and honoring yourself. And I think that's the way that I view it. It's not about, you know, selfishness is I don't care about anybody else, I only care about myself. That's very different to when I honor what is true for me, everybody around me benefits. That's what it looks like. That is the difference. Everybody around me benefits when I am true to myself.
Yeah.
And that's true for men and women. Anybody that's think, oh, it's selfish to choose me or to pick me or to even consider what it is that I want. I'm like, everyone around you is worse off when you are doing that.
Yeah.
When you are prioritizing all of them in a situation where you're not true to who you actually are, no one is truly benefiting from that.
No. And that's the, like, if you're putting yourself second or third or last, everyone's getting a second rate, a third rate, or a, you know, fucking whatever that is down there, rate version of you. Like, if you're not showing
and
up,
usually resentful, like I got into. Here's some more advice. You know, just getting annoyed
or
when
do
you
better. Yeah.
You know, it's true. Yeah. I think that's the important part to remember. It's self-honoring allows everybody else to have a better experience of you. It also gives them permission to honor themselves, which gives you a better experience of them.
Well, and that's leadership, right? Like, that's magnetic leadership. It's like, if you do the work, because I've got a client who asked me the other day, like, how much, you know, like, at what point do I not have to be the one who continues to show up to this? Never. Not at any point do you get that, because you're choosing to do the work on yourself. You're showing up. You're bettering yourself. You're leading this. So you show up to the standard and the value that you have in yourself, and you set that, which means that you always have to hold yourself accountable to that, which means that you don't ever get the opportunity to put that down. And I think that that's a really, you know, like, maybe that's a really robust way of looking at it, but it's not that she doesn't ever get to meet that. You know, it's just that you're doing the work. Like, for me, I think I'm the same. It's like, and I don't want to assume what you would be thinking, but for me, it's like, well, I'm choosing to do the work. So if there's a difficult conversation to be had, and I'm waiting for that person to start the conversation or initiate the conversation, and then holding that resentment because they're not doing it, well, I'm not showing up to the work that I've done. I'm not showing up to the value and the respect and the standards that I apply first and foremost to myself.
Exactly. And I think that's the key. Like, that's got to be the mindset key, where you're not doing it for her. Ultimately, like, if that's where people are getting stuck where I've got to do all of this for her, I've got to do all of this for her as a man. You're not doing it just for her. You're doing it because ultimately it is also what is best for you in the end, right? Like that is how you become a man. So rather than being like, oh, I've got all these pressures on me, I've got all these expectations, she always wants blah, blah, blah. And yeah, sometimes the women are unreasonable with their expectations, like 100%. And boundaries, a man needs boundaries, right? And set those in place. But the resentment of the giving is because there's a misunderstanding that I get in return what we were saying before. I get self-esteem. I get self-assurance. I get personal power. I get respect. I get people that look and be like, geez, that's a man. Like look at everybody around him is better because of him. You get appreciation, you get validation. Every single thing that your little boy heart and your grown man heart wants, you get from stepping up to those expectations. From it's a refiner's fire. A lot of men resent the pressure that is put on them rather than knowing that is the refiner's fire. That is the rite of passage. It's how you become a man, is what you do under that pressure. And so, yeah, when naturally so, but when a man's like, oh, it's too much pressure, it's too much expectations, and it's too overwhelming. When is it enough? When have I done the work? That's that misunderstanding that this is how you evolve. This is who you become, the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and that's that difference, I think, between collaboration and competition is that like, all right, well, I've done my bit, now it's your turn. I was like, no, your bit ends when you die.
Yeah, yeah. And I think with competition, that's probably why I feel a lot of men. You shared a stat with me earlier. Something like astronomical, like 75% of people that do personal development is women. Why is that? And what I have experienced, I'd be curious in your line of work, because you work predominantly with men, is I feel men more so than women drop into shame.
Yeah.
It's like they hear a piece of feedback, they take it as criticism. They hear, I need you to do this. They're like, am I not good enough? Am I not already doing enough? They hear, oh, you hurt me, I get defensive. It's like all of those reactions that we have, which create a lack of safety in the communication, where a woman's trying to say, this was my experience, and then you blame. It's because they really struggle deeply with shame, rather than being like, that's a piece of feadback. I can take that on board. Let me go work at this, which is often what women do. If they hear that feedback, a healthy woman, a healthy feminine will take that feedback and try to go and develop and grow. That's why we're doing all this personal development. But for a man, they hear it as I'm not good enough. That little shame monster comes out and absolutely ruins the show.
Yeah.
And sucks the entire room. I've said to my partner before, as soon as I'm trying to tell you how I feel and you go into shame, which is, oh, I guess I'm just a terrible partner. Oh, I guess I'm just shit. Oh, I guess I'm just the worst partner in the world. I'm like, as soon as you go into, I know that you're reacting that way because you feel bad.
Yeah.
Because your intention was not to upset me and you feel criticized. But as soon as you go into that shame spiral, there is no more room for my emotions. There's no more room for my expression. The entire conversation now is about you and about how I have to reassure you that you are good enough, and then walk away being like, cool, he now feels good enough, and I did I actually even get hurt in that, and I'm still upset. If men can deal with that shame gremlin and not go into that place, go into, we are all imperfect.
Yeah.
But I think because men, when they come out into the world, you've got to be strong. You're the pillars. You can't be the weak link. And if they cry, shame. If they can't do something, shame. In competition, they lost, shame. Because they are wired like that, I think shame hits them so much deeper.
Yeah.
And so that's an area for them to look at, because you will not be defensive if you don't have shame. If you go, I'll cop that because, I'm an imperfect person.
Yeah, cool. I've got something to work on.
I'm going to work on that.
Take that home and go for it.
I can see why it would have come across like that. That wasn't my intention, but I can really see how that was your experience. When shame is not present, the entire dynamic is completely different. And so I want men to hear that. No one has ever expected you to be perfect.
Yeah.
No one has ever expected you to hold the entire house up all on your own.
Yeah.
You have powerful women that are by your side with their complementary strengths doing that as well. You have the space to look at your intuition and look at your wisdom and look at your creativity. Don't, if anything, work on the shame.
Well, yeah, and the ways I think that shame show up out loud is like fear of embarrassing yourself, worrying about what other people will think, worrying about what other people will say, worrying about if you're going to get criticized and if you're going to get all of those things, you know, like I think that a lot of men don't really want to say out loud, like, I feel shame, but most guys that I speak to will say, like, my number one fear is embarrassment.
Yeah. It's not being good enough. What if I follow that passion? It doesn't make money.
What if they judge me? I mean, my dad's got a story that is like the epitome of that, which is he was out at a dam in the middle of the outback. He was young. He was with a mate. They went for a swim in the dam. The mate drowned. Dad had no idea that he didn't know how to swim, and he wouldn't tell Dad that he didn't know how to swim.
That's devastating.
It's terrible, but you know, like that's stayed with my dad around don't take risks. Don't take risks because you could die. That guy took a risk, but when I heard that story, I was like, he died of shame. Literally, because he didn't want to say, I don't know how to swim. And I think, you know, that's heartbreaking because if we look at the, you know, I don't actually know what the stat is, but if we look at the suicide stats, you know, like it's
astronomical for men.
It's wild. And women are naturally more emotionally communicative. We are faster to come forward and talk about things, and we will get together and we will talk about stuff. And, you know, like often that happens in detrimental ways as well. But men, I think, are, you know, like slow to come forward and fast to be burned and retract. And I think that, you know, we are more eager or more emotionally adept without a lot of lessons or without a lot of development to be able to step forward again and again and expose ourselves again and again. And I think that men have that, like, as you put, like that shame piece that says, like, I tried and it went really wrong, so I'm going to come all the way back here and I'm never coming back out again.
Because we're not expected to be strong. But that's the truth. A woman, based on society's conditioning, we're not expected to be the strong ones. Men are. And so them coming forward and talking about the things that seem weak or seem vulnerable, immediately you're not a man.
Yeah.
Whereas women be like look at us. We've got to find a way to wrap this up, right? Because you could just jabber and jabber and jabber because I'm not afraid as much to be like, oh, here's a weak spot. Here's a weak spot, because technically we're already considered the weaker species. We're considered the more emotional one. We don't actually have the burden of strength is what makes you valuable.
Yeah, societally acceptable.
Yes. And so for men, it is so much more shame. Any weak link in the armor, you better hide that at all costs, not let anybody see that. And if they do, you better punch their face off, right? And if they pluck their eyes out or something and hide it, rather than, like, when did anybody tell boys no one expects you to have it all together?
Yeah.
No one expects you to know everything. No one expects you to not have weak moments or to not have emotions. That has never been expected of you.
Yeah.
That is not what your women want of you, but it is what men have taught men they want. And unfortunately, a lot of unhealthy women that project that onto them and be like, oh, you're stressed. Well, I don't feel safe with you.
Yeah.
And that was the part where it's like, learn to hold yourself, learn to regulate yourself as a woman so that he can actually have emotions.
Yeah.
And he's not going to express them to you. He's not even going to show you that he has them. He's got them.
Yeah.
But he's not showing anyone.
They are well covered.
Yeah.
We do have some questions here. So Ruben has said, how do you regulate your emotions after having a stroke, it definitely affects my brain and memory negatively. And then he says, hard out complementary equality. But the main question there is, how do you regulate your emotions after having a stroke? What would your advice be?
Great question, because obviously that allows us to speak to the fact that not everybody is coming from the same place.
Yeah.
Right. And stroke or not, like there also sicknesses or cancers or our upbringings, or that, like, there are genuine disadvantages that we have, and I think that's important to speak to as well, because Ruben, was it?
Yeah.
Does not choose to have a stroke,
No.
does not ask to have a stroke, does not ask for that disadvantage that makes it harder to regulate, right? Because the brain is literally impacted. And so in that situation, one, looking at any shame around feeling less than.
Yeah, incapable.
Well, less capable. Like, there's got to be a healthy acknowledgement that there's a disadvantage, right? But how does that make you feel about yourself in a stroke or anything else? Any disadvantage that any of us is carrying, or anyone that's listening, the disadvantage in and of itself is not necessarily the problem. It's how we feel about ourselves because of that. We're less than, we're inferior, we're inadequate. That is creating more internal stress, which then makes it harder to regulate, right? Because you're not just dealing with an emotion, you're now dealing with all of the shame and judgment and self-hate and self-criticism that you're having, as well as the emotion in the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously not, my limitation is I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. I don't deal with, I don't understand, Ruben, about the ins and outs of a stroke and how that impacts. All I know is that, and all that I want to speak to, is any disadvantage we can turn into a strength.
Yeah.
We can turn into a source of inspiration, a source of power for others. And it only truly cripples us to the degree it does when we carry shame about that, rather than trying to work with it and create with it still.
Well, and that's, like, I would agree with that, and also that aspect of, like, nor am I. I'm actively promote.
This is my limitation.
I am not a therapist. Like, please don't come to me for therapy.
And how much do we want to honor being able to say that too?
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly what we're talking about, is a man being able to come forth and say, here's an area that I feel is disadvantage or weakness for me, and can I get support in that? Like, that makes me emotional, because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the strength of a man, to be able to say, hey, I've got this.
I need help.
I need help with that, because I've also got the power within me to ask for help and to do something about it.
Yeah.
So I just really want to honor you for coming forth with that, Ruben. And as much as I'm acknowledging my limitation, and I don't know if that answer was dissatisfactory or not, but more than anything, I just want to honor you and thank you for that.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that reflection as well. But I think, for, like, my core belief is that the more that you work on understanding yourself, the more you set yourself free. And so, stroke, injury, accident, breakup, redundancy, burnout, like, loss, grief. If you take steps to learn yourself, who you are fundamentally under all of it, which I think is the premise of our whole conversation, you will eventually figure out what it means for you, because I don't believe that anything happens to us by accident. So it all means something at some point, but hindsight's a beautiful gift. And I think that takes a lot of work to get through. But I think that the more that you understand yourself and the more work that you do to learn who you are and what you are in the world and what that could bring to you, the more opportunity that you garner from that. And in saying that, I think that the more that you fight it, which is the resistance and causing that friction of this is wrong with me and why did that happen to me and why am I stuck with this? And I'm not saying that that's what you're thinking at all, Ruben, but that, you know, like, why is it so hard for me? When we create that struggle, we also create that aversion to, I don't want to see it. You know, like, I don't want to understand it. And that becomes that piece that is the invitation, I think, to, well, what, you know, like, why might this have happened to me? And I think understanding or looking into metaphysical anatomy is also a really interesting, this is the Bible book there, but to understand, you know, like, what can those physical ailments represent as well? But that's not my specialty at all. It's just something that I'm very curious about. But I think that, you know, there's a huge link between the injuries or the illnesses that we get and the resistance that we've had in our life, or the, you know, the trauma that we've held, or the pain that we've repressed or avoided. I think you definitely see, you know, people that are avoidant generally have some sort of chaos. Mine was redundancy and loss. And so, like, if we see that, we can see the opportunity, but I think that you can see when people are avoiding something, because if you don't listen and you don't listen and you don't listen and you don't listen, eventually something blows up.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people in the personal development industry like to just focus on positivity and positive thinking. And that's why I'm sort of saying, you know, for Ruben, it's like, we acknowledge the limitations for anybody. Like, when we have limitations, it's not like, oh, we pretend that they're not there. It's like, no, we acknowledge that they're there for ourselves, but also trying to spend more time acknowledging what strengths are there too.
Yeah.
What, like, sure, you might be able to, it's harder to regulate. So that might be a muscle, like learning to walk again. That might be a muscle you got to put a lot of effort into to developing. But we spend so much time focusing on our limitations rather than acknowledging that they're there, and that makes things harder, as well as, like, what are my strengths? Like, how much time am I actually sitting in? What are my strengths? What are my capabilities? What am I still very good at? What do people come to me for? And
what has this created more time in my life for as well? I think, you know, like, one of those things is, like, I always look at the positive, and I always think, you know, like, if you're looking for the problem, you'll find the problem, but you can't look for a problem and an opportunity at the same time. And so if you're opportunistic, you know, you can look at, and again, like, I'm not making light of how harrowing and how impactful or devastating a stroke could be in your life. I think I can't, I've never been there. I can't understand that. I absolutely cannot. But I would assume that there were some things that made you go slower. It would have made you take more time for things. And so we can look at, like, and again, like, obviously I don't know your situation, Ruben, at all, but we would be able to look at, like, well, what was happening before and what has changed in that now, and what has that change created space for in your life that you didn't otherwise have. Those are the sort of things that I would be looking at in terms of, like, you know, what are some of the opportunities, what are some of the beautiful aspects of this, once, you know, like, once where, because it is a huge change, it is a huge challenge, and that is detrimental, you know, there's a lot to get through in that. And so, like, once that starts moving, it's like, well, what has now become available to me that wasn't before? Because there's plenty of people that have had horrific injuries and then become international inspiring speakers that, you know, help people change their lives. But I think that comes down to the person and the potentially the openness to investigating that.
I love it. Right. Well, I don't know the time, but how are we going to wrap this up, Imogen?
Yeah.
Darcy Bridges just said, I would recommend Ruben seek out an occupational therapist if he hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rad recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you so much
You're
for this
welcome.
epic conversation, and for coming all the way down here and sitting with me, because it's like that for me means so much and is so awesome to be able to actually be.
I love being here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a topic clearly we could go on and on about for hours.
Yeah,
but
we might do a round 2 one day.
yeah, I don't want to burn all the listeners being like, oh, they won't stop. Typical women.
We wouldn't. But if people want to work with you, if they want to find you, if they want to follow you, which I highly recommend that you all do. I'm like, the computer's here, but the camera's there. Where can they find you?
If you want to work with me, easiest place is just my website, so jesscameron.com, www.jesscameron.com, and my Instagram is that's Jess Cameron. So.
Great. And if people wanted to ask you questions or, like follow off the back of this, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Email, so on website as well. If you go to the website contact form, you can ask a question there. Just pop that in the message box. If you don't have Instagram, if you got Instagram, send me a DM.
Yeah, I
could send you a voice note back.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on the Good Man Paradigm.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for your comments as well. We will be back again next Thursday night. I have a different guest on next Thursday night, so we will see you all then. Until then.